Hi everyone. Today we did get a bit of a leg down. Interesting. We had this kind of move here, consolidation yesterday, and then a bigger leg down to start the session. Didn't get to the level here, 635.60, 200 SMA there, 637, but this is a leg down for sure. You have a high, kind of lower high structure. 55 EMA was that resistance. We talked about that zone yesterday. If we could get above it, we were looking for the trend, and if we didn't, then we were looking for that 144, which we ended up hitting and overthrowing here. So this looks a little bit more bearish here. Momentum stepping to bearish, RSI stepping to bearish, but let's take a quick look at all of the charts as we head into tomorrow's session. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. In news today, we got Trump expanding 50% steel and aluminum tariffs to include 407 products, so big move there. 50% duties now in effect for an additional 400 kinds of products that contain aluminum and steel. I think this is part of the reason that we're getting a little bit of a leg down here today. I don't believe this is really all of it, but it's definitely something. This is signaling to markets that there's still some uncertainty out there. He's still willing to increase the tariffs beyond what we've seen, beyond just the agreements that we're expecting to get over the next couple of months. And really, I think this is the uncertainty, like I mentioned. Moving over to Fear and Greed Index, 5 points down here. Momentum stepping back to neutral with that leg down. Strength still flat. Breadth back to neutral. We'll take a look at what that did on the main charts. Put call ratio didn't really move a lot here today. Volatility stepping up off of that zone of support that we mentioned on the VIX charts yesterday. And then safe haven demand, pretty big leg down as you would suspect. And then still no movements here on junk bonds. Moving over to the economic calendar, Atlanta Fed GDP came in a little lower than expectations. Really not very much important stuff. We do get the Fed minutes tomorrow for Wednesday. That's going to be interesting. CPI for the Eurozone. And then soft data here for Thursday. Jackson Hole Symposium starts. But we don't have Fed PAL until Friday. So really not a ton of data. Still continuing to watch. And initial jobless claims. This is going to be one of those kind of early indicators of a potential slowdown, but I just don't see that happening, at least for now. Moving over to the charts, looking at the S&Ps, we talked about this as a potential kind of breakdown retest if we got below the trend here on the daily chart. And on that Monday, we did get below that structure, and then we just kind of melted off of that 55 EMA. So a little bit of selling there. Still watching the 200, like I mentioned, still watching that 635.60 level. And then you got trend support down here. Let's go ahead and extend this out right in this same kind of zone around 634 or so. Momentum is truly bearish now on the daily chart. That's the first time we've seen really a step into bearish since really the end of July. So it's been a couple of weeks here. That resulted in a little bit of selling, 5 days in a row of selling. We've had 3 here. Does this continue down to that next level? After hours, seeing just a smidgen of recovery. Nothing crazy here, but it seems like we're likely to get at least one more sell. The bigger question, at least for the very short term, is do we get a bit of a retracement here, retest that kind of low area around 642, and then the continuation lower? That's what I suspect is likely to happen. If we get no pullback off of this leg down, definitely be a little bit more worried. At least I will be tomorrow. Moving over to the Tasty charts here, you have that trailing stop, 638.98. We came right down to it, right down to that 55 EMA on the 4-hour chart, held that zone on a closing basis. Momentum definitely swinging to bearish here. Volume ramping on that sell, everything you would not really want to see if this was going to continue to be bullish. And then looking at that hourly chart, like I said, we were definitely extended, hit that lowest ATR band. I would like to see this rally back up a little bit into this kind of 642 area, and then we'll see if this continues down after that. Seeing just a smidgen more selling here in the after hours. Really want to see this structure hold, get a short-term bounce, get a little bit more orderly move to the downside. Moving over to the NASDAQ here, we got another big leg down, just like the SPY charts, 1.3% to the downside. And you're seeing a little bit more selling here. 571 was the level. We had that trend structure we were watching yesterday, broke down, kind of retested that zone, and then sold here right to that 21 EMA. Is the 21 EMA going to hold? That's going to be 569.10. We're right at it here in the after hours. We'll need to see that zone hold. 571 is the interesting level. Can we get above that and push for another higher high structure? Or is this going to be kind of a left shoulder head, right shoulder pattern, which means we're going to come down and give us kind of a neckline zone in here, and then that kind of right shoulder for a broader topping pattern. Those are the things we have to start thinking about with today's movement. Moving over to the Tasty chart, same thesis, being super extended here, well below that lowest ATR band, which is part of why I think we'll see just a little bit of a retracement to the upside in this kind of 573 to 574 area. Get a lower high setup, and continuation lower would be what I would like to see. But for now, we are continuing to fall just a smidgen after hours. And then looking at that 4-hour chart, you got the 89 EMA holding as support right now. That is 568.93. That's an interesting zone. Touched that level, held that level, needs to hold that level if it's going to see any kind of bounce. But you did see a flip into bearish conditions today on the 4-hour chart on the NASDAQ. We've been talking about the Mag 7 being a little bit frail, starting to show some cracks, and now we have seen a full-blown kind of move through here to that lowest ATR band on the 4-hour chart. So the NASDAQ leading us to the downside, which is not a good sign. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow. The Russell also had a bit of a leg down, but it didn't break the level there. 226.02 is the level. Went right to it and stopped, and you can see after hours bouncing just a smidgen there. Want to see it hold that level, want to see a little bit of a retracement short-term bounce, and then I'd probably sell if we got into this kind of 228 to 229 area. This has been the zone of resistance. I suspect that will continue to be the case, but I think we'll get just a smidgen of a bounce here. And then looking at the Dow actually was positive on the day, just 24 cents, but it's still in this kind of topping pattern. The outside reversal candle tried to go higher and then couldn't, finishing basically unchanged. But the Dow did hang in there, and it was the best on the day. Moving over to the Mag 7 here. Mag 7, big leg down 1.66%. Didn't quite make it down to that 21 EMA quite yet, but the momentum definitely stepping to bearish. RSI stepping down. Definitely some volume coming through here. Watching that next level, 341.42, this kind of zone in here as a zone of support. But you could certainly argue we kind of drifted up to the trend, rejected from there. This is still a bullish structure. We're still holding that 21 EMA, but we're definitely getting a little bit of a pullback. Going to watch this closely here on the Mag 7. If the Mag 7 breaks down in terms of structure, obviously that's going to be very bad, but for now this could still be just a pullback. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. Apple still unchanged, still at the level 230.28, and then looking at Microsoft, broke below that trend structure, going to the level here 506.71. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. 55 EMA is that next zone around the 500 level. The trend structure in there as well, around 499. Are we actually going to pull back to here, which would be pretty substantial? Remember, this did go all the way up to the 555 area. We've given more than 10% of that back, about 10% of that back now towards this zone of support. It does seem like we're going to continue to go just a little bit lower here on Microsoft. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA here. Tesla down 1.75%, back below that trend structure just a little bit. Could not get above 336, threw a big wick and then rejected there. Right back to the lows from the previous 2 days here. Momentum swinging there. RSI a little bit bearish, but look at this candle here on NVIDIA, 3.5% down. We had this topping pattern. We had the level as soon as 180 broke. Now this looks like it's going to go quite a bit, potentially back down to that 55 EMA, which would give you about 6 to 7% potentially momentum bearish, RSI bearish. Seems like we're going to get some more bearish markets here over the next couple days. Moving over to staples and discretionaries. This looks like clear rotation here. Big leg up on staples, up 1%, discretionaries down just 0.05, but big wick rejection. Still holding above the structures here, but this looks like rotation, right? Clean move, continues higher, big wick, little bit of selling, momentum stepping to bearish. Seems like somebody is moving out of those risk on plays. Moving over to breadth. This is the opposite of what I thought we would find here. So breadth actually improved here today, up 16% and almost 8% respectively. Momentum resuming to bullish, RSI resuming to bullish. Really, really interesting to see breadth improving, but the Mag 7 is what's pulling us down, which not good for the NASDAQ. Makes sense why the Russell was okay, the Dow was okay today, but the NASDAQ doing pretty terribly. So going to continue to watch this. If breadth continues to hang in there, this is likely just a pullback and not a complete change in structure, but you got to continue to watch things as they progress. So definitely mixed signals. Charts look pretty rough, but breadth saying this is likely just a hesitation. Moving over to the dollar did continue to show bullish, higher low setup off of the trend structure, continued to stay bullish here on the daily chart. Want to see it get above the 21, want to see it push towards 99.83, but everything doing exactly what we hoped it would here on the dollar. Moving over to bonds. Bonds did pull back a little bit on J&K, still showing this as a potential bullish triangle with multiple tops in a same vicinity around this kind of 97.15 area, still higher low structures, potentially 55 EMA still hanging out as support at 96.50. And then looking at TLT, did get a little move up there, about 0.5%. It's not holding those gains super well, but it is doing what we hoped with that low, higher low potential at the support level 85.90. Moving over to the VIX did show life again from that level 14.7, critically low level as a zone of support. It was a support zone here. We're back in it. Support zone again, seemingly. Momentum stepping to bullish. RSI getting close to that SMA here. We're not quite there. One more day like this and we'll get back above it. Then likely to see a bigger push here into the 20 area, I would suspect. But for now, not quite there. Still below the trend structure. Could be a nothing day. Could be another one of these where you get a hesitation and then a fall. But for now, this is showing life off of a zone of support. Moving over to my accounts, I decided to stay long the Russell here at 227. I had a 227 and a 228 for today. Obviously, those weren't super good positions, but I rolled down here the 228 down to 227 and then held the 227 for tomorrow. If we can get a little bit of a push, I'll likely take these off. I'm not expecting to hold these super long, but for now, I think as long as that 226 level continues to hold, and it has, we should be in good shape. And then the dollar still sitting on the same position. Did take a very short-term short position on the Qs at the end of the session, decided not to hold that. Very small loser there, but it was the 571 position. I think we'll probably stay below that tomorrow, and I'll be watching for that potential position tomorrow. Let me know down in the comments section what you think of the increased tariffs. Are there more increased tariffs to come? Is this just a one-time thing? Is there more uncertainty that needs to be priced in? Let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.